There's this hidden power that every single one of us has. We were experts at it when we were kids, but somewhere along the way, we kind of forgot how to use it. And it's a shame because it's literally the key to genius, to invention, and to seeing the world in a completely new way.
So let me just ask you something straight up. When you look at the world around you, are you just watching or are you really observing? Yeah, take a second. Think about that. Because believe me, there is a massive difference between the two. And getting good at it, well, it's basically a superpower. I'm not kidding. This is the exact same power that let Leonardo da Vinci create the Mona Lisa or Charles Darwin figure out evolution. It's how Isaac Newton saw gravity in just a simple falling apple.
All right, so let's get into it. What is it that these geniuses actually see? And look, this isn't some history lesson. This skill has a huge impact on success right here, right now, in our world. And honestly, the stakes are probably way higher than you think.
I love this quote. It says, "To acquire knowledge, one must study, but to acquire wisdom, one must observe." And you know who said that? Marilyn Vos Savant. She's listed as having one of the highest IQs ever recorded. So when she makes a distinction between knowledge and wisdom, it's worth paying attention. She's saying knowledge is what you get from books, but wisdom, real wisdom, that only comes from paying attention to the world around you.
Okay, let me give you a modern-day example that'll blow your mind. This is Safin Hassan. He became the youngest IPS officer in India by cracking one of the toughest exams on the planet on his very first attempt. So how'd he do it? Well, he said his real prep wasn't cramming from books. No, for 4 years in college, he just observed. He watched successful officers, learning how they operated, what mistakes they made. Get this, he ended up in the hospital right before his final interview, walked in with literally zero last-minute prep, and still scored the second highest marks in the entire country. That's what we're talking about. That is the raw power of observation.
And his story just proves it, right? This skill isn't just about acing a test. It is the engine, the absolute engine of invention and opportunity. I mean, think about it. Where did Zomato come from? Someone observed that getting food delivered was a pain. Uber? Someone observed how inefficient it was to try and find a cab. Every single great idea starts with one person truly observing a problem that everyone else was just, well, watching.
So the big question is, if this skill is so incredibly powerful, why aren't we all using it all the time? Well, here's the twist. The problem isn't you, it's your brain. Your brain is actually designed to work against you on this. Let's break down how that happens.
Okay, check this out. Every single second, your senses are just getting blasted with information. We're talking sight, sound, touch, all of it. And it adds up to about 11 million bits of information every second. Think about that, 11 million. It's an absolute fire hose of data.
But here's the crazy part. Out of all that, out of those 11 million bits, guess how many your conscious brain can actually process? About 40. Just 40. No, that is not a typo. Your brain is literally filtering out 99.999% of reality just so you can function without going insane.
So there's a name for this, of course. Psychologists call it selective attention. And you got to understand, it's a feature, not a bug. It's the only reason you can focus on my voice right now instead of the feeling of your chair or some random noise outside. You've probably heard of that famous experiment where people have to count basketball passes, right? And while they're so focused on counting, a guy in a full-on gorilla suit walks right through the middle of the screen, and most people never even see him. They were watching the video for sure, but they weren't observing the reality of the situation.
Now here's the really important part. This filtering isn't just about gorillas and basketballs. The biggest filter, the one that blocks us the most, is happening inside our own heads. It's this thing we're going to call the thought cloud. You know what I mean? That constant chatter. What am I having for dinner? Did I reply to that email? All those worries, plans, and random thoughts. That cloud is what literally stops you from seeing what's right in front of your face. Imagine you're a designer looking at feedback. Your thought cloud is screaming about deadlines and budgets, and you completely miss that one little comment, that one golden nugget that could have been a total game changer. You're looking at the data, but you're not seeing the opportunity.
Okay, but here is the good news. This is not a life sentence. We can actually learn to take control of that filter. We can choose what we focus on. And the very first tool we're going to use to do that is this really cool idea called the brain attic.
Yeah, this metaphor actually comes from Sherlock Holmes. Picture your mind is a big, empty attic. Now, you wouldn't just throw any old junk you find on the street up there, right? Of course not. A smart person is very selective. They carefully choose what furniture, what pieces of information, what details they want to store in that attic.
It means you get to decide what's important enough to notice.
Let's bring this back to Newton and that apple. Okay, so the apple falls. Now, imagine a farmer is sitting right next to him. The farmer sees the apple fall and thinks, great, the apples are ripe, time to harvest. Why? Because his brain attic is filled with furniture about farming, seasons, and crops. But Newton's attic, his was furnished with big questions about physics and the universe. So he sees the exact same event, and he asks a totally different question. Wait a second, why did it fall down? Why not sideways or up? That one question, driven by the specific furniture in his brain attic, literally changed modern physics.
All right, so you've started building your brain attic. You're being selective, you're choosing what to store. Awesome. But now you have a new problem, right? What good is an attic full of amazing stuff if you can't find anything when you need it? How do you make sure all these valuable observations don't just disappear into the clutter? How do you make them stick?
Well, this is where a super powerful technique from the ancient Greeks comes into play. It's called the memory palace. And you can think of it like the ultimate organizing system for your brain attic. See, our brains are just awful at remembering boring things, like lists. But they are absolutely amazing at remembering places and stories. So let's say you want to remember a grocery list. You don't just repeat the items. Instead, you create a crazy story in a place you know well, like your kitchen. You walk in and there are monkeys throwing pizza dough, eggs are raining from the sky, and a bunch of apples are doing yoga on a loaf of bread. I know it sounds ridiculous, but the weirder and more vivid the story, the better you'll remember everything.
So let's recap. We know the problem now. It's our brain's automatic filter. And we have the tools to fight back, the brain attic to choose our focus, and the memory palace to make it stick. Now, the final step is to put this all together into a simple practice you can use every single day.
Here are 5 things you can start doing, like today. Number 1, sensational data gathering. Don't just use your eyes. What do you actually hear? What do you smell? What do you feel? Use all 5 senses. Number 2, focus and brain attic. Before you walk into a room or a meeting, consciously decide what you're looking for. Furnish your attic ahead of time. Third, use that memory palace. Get in the habit of turning the important things you notice into wild, memorable stories. Fourth, and this is a big one, practice presence of mind. You have to make a real effort to get out of that thought cloud and just be here, now. And finally, number 5, a simple trick to help with that, box breathing. When your mind is just going a mile a minute, just do this. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, and hold again for 4. It's an incredibly simple way to quiet your mind and snap back to the present moment.
And once you start getting the hang of all this, you can take it to the next level with this really profound idea from the philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti. He said, observe the observer. What does that mean? It means you start turning that power of observation back on yourself. You start noticing your own biases, your own filters, that thought cloud we talked about. You start asking, how is the way I see the world changing what I'm actually seeing?
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Observation isn't passive. It's not just something that happens to you. It is an active choice you make every single moment. You now have the tools, you have the framework to get that superpower back. So the only question that's left is, in a world that's throwing 11 million bits of information at you every second, what will you choose to see?